Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. We didn't get recorded at the beginning, but we're going to get recorded from here on, I guess.
Yes. I think everything was just the minutes, Mr. Chair, and the adoption of the agenda and the correspondence and the executive. So this is the main reason you called the meeting.
Yes. And Linda, would you like to speak on your report that you've sent out to the board members?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a little bit of background on what has occurred. And there was a brief conversation after the last board meeting that I don't know if anybody who was present had heard, but back in November, I believe, October, November, Lucy, the Lakefront Utilities Commission in Cobourg that is owned by the town of Cobourg sent an invoice to the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority for stormwater charges. And the reason it was brought to our attention is because we don't get an invoice from Lucy. We don't have an account. So the bookkeeper brought this into me, and it was for stormwater charges. And it came with a brochure that I've copied all of you. And then I've copied the invoices as well, stating that it's for like a capital asset replacement on the infrastructure for the stormwater. So I understand the charges. And on a personal note, me as a landowner in Cobourg, I also got the same invoice, not for quite as much. So I understand the concept. However, there was no future like advanced consultation on the charges. The charges were going to be billed in 3 billings for 2023. And then it would be increased in 2024, and then it would be billed monthly. And so it raised a concern with the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority because it was billed on Cobourg Conservation Area. And as the staff report says, it lays out the terms. It was for $402 a hectare, and then next year it's going to be going up again. I included the brochure that lists all the listings. But within the bylaw 048/2022, that was passed in June of 2022, again, not by the current council, but by the previous council. And they had a whole different listing of charges that were going to be associated with the bill. And then those were basically doubled. I'm not sure of the rationale for that, but the fact is that if Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority had to pay a stormwater charge on all of our lands, if all of our municipal partners introduce those types of charges, we would be paying over $1.8 million in stormwater charges. And when you've got a budget of 3.5 to $3.8 million, that would really probably close the Conservation Authority because we could not raise those funds. So even on a precedent setting, if anything else, is why we sent a letter for an exemption to, I'm not sure who that is, but I'm thinking it's Bruce. We sent a letter to ask for an exemption to council. And the letter was sent under the chair's signature. I've had several phone calls with the clerk, I've spoken to the CAO, I've spoken to today, even yesterday and today, I've spoken to the treasurer about the charges and about how we go about to get an exemption. So we sent a letter on the advice of the clerk, and we sent it to council, and it was received for information. So it was not pulled. It was not discussed. And then they said, we said, Chair and I said, so what do we do now? And they said, well, you could come and make a presentation. It was to a grants committee or something. But I was also busy at the time, but it was also felt that, and the chair will speak to this, it probably wasn't in the best interest of the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority to make a presentation, a public presentation, when we're trying to get this appealed, we're trying to get exempted. Then today, because I had heard last week that there was going to be some movement of a suspension, so I tried to ask around, and I put a call into the clerk on Tuesday because I was trying to avoid this meeting if it was going to be happening. I was told, no, that's not going to happen. I called yesterday. I was told, no, it's not going to happen. I spoke to the treasurer last night. No, it's not going to happen. And today I got a letter saying a temporary suspension of stormwater building. It's not a letter, it's a public notice that went out to the public. But all it is, it's stating there is a suspension. It doesn't say there's an elimination. So we still need to deal with the fact that we are being charged stormwater charges on Cobourg Conservation Area. And that's where the chair had asked that we call this meeting. And I did the staff report that basically lays out, and it laid out a direction, but now we won't be paying the invoice. So it's, I think that the chair and I discussed some new direction, and I believe it's up to the board and the chair to discuss the direction from here on in. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If the board would allow, I'd like to just speak a little bit on what some follow-up to what Linda said. And in today's conversation, Linda has spoken to the both the clerk and the treasurer at the town of Cobourg, and their recommendation basically is if we could get a motion to come from this group to go to the town of Cobourg and ask for an exemption, that would carry a lot more weight than the letter that we previously sent. It would also carry a lot more weight if the two Cobourg representatives both support what we're doing, and if they would move and second that motion. So I'm putting them on the spot a little bit, but in the same token, that was said by their clerk and their treasurer that not only would it help get it onto the agenda, but it would help hopefully get the conversation going there and hopefully be supported.
And further, Mr. Chair, that it get pulled. I'm not sure about the mover, the seconder of the motion, but that the Cobourg members pull it from information, because the last piece of correspondence was not pulled. And I guess the councillors have to pull I don't know how it is, and it was not pulled, so that's why it was just received for information and there was no action on it.
But we'd like to have at least some discussion, perhaps. I don't know who would like to lead off, but Willie, yes?
Yeah, no, could I ask, this stormwater fee, that's not a new fee. What is new is that the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority is now included in that. Am I correct in saying that?
No.
It is a new fee.
It is a new fee.
Yeah.
A new fee for all residents of the town, all property owners in the town of Cobourg, whether it's farmland, whether it's development land, whether it's a conservation, whether it's a house. It is a brand new fee added on to the Lucy bill.
It was brought forward by the last council, and this council has continued on with it.
So I'm wondering if they're looking at this as another revenue stream. Now, again, as much as there's pushback or concerns from the Ganaraska, there's probably other individual homeowners, farmers, and especially if you're saying how much, 400 some odd dollars per hectare?
That's just for vacant land. No, it's
okay.
It's in the brochure that I sent around with the agenda. The whole fee structure is there. So a residential medium density is this is per hectare is 1,206.29. So and the whole listing, I know you can't see, I'm holding up the brochure,
right?
But the whole listing is within that brochure included in your package.
Well, again, as much as we have a concern, there's probably a few other people that are probably irate that this has come out, and I sort of get the impression it's sort of come out of nowhere without any consultation.
You, Mr. Chair. Yes. That is correct, but we're not as far as landowners. I think what our concern has to be is the precedent that if we don't ask, so school boards have been exempt, schools have been exempt. If we don't ask for an exemption, and if all the other municipalities, we have lands within 7 municipalities. If they all were to do this type of charge, we would be looking at a total of $1.8 million in charges. So I think because we hold our lands, you know, for reasons such as floodplain, such as environmental features, that we need to ask for that exemption and really need to push for that exemption, because otherwise it is a concern about the precedent that could be set.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, I know you've asked for our COBRA representatives, if one would move it, the other one second it. If not, I certainly would not mind moving it or second it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're just going to discuss first, William. We'll see how we make out. I don't want to put them on the spot, but I mean, we are here today to represent the Conservation Authority. I'll go to Vicky and then I'll go to Randy.
So to the chair, I have a question and then a comment. So to your point about other municipalities, does anybody have any awareness whether this is becoming a common practice?
Not yet.
Not yet. So I certainly, you know, without knowing the whole background, I don't want to speak for Coburg in the decision making, but I can totally supporting infrastructure in an urban area, that this is something that's hopefully a way of managing stormwater, but for areas such as conservation areas, agricultural, I kind of see it kind of overlapping with what conservation authorities are doing. So it's kind of an overlap there. But also the I'm getting caught in my words here, but anyways, I support it. There was another point I wanted to make, but I totally support us asking for that exemption. The other point I was going to make was that I also see it discouraging conservation areas in the future, which we obviously want them, but if they're going to be charged like this, if there's no value, well, there's value, but there's no financial value in sustaining conservation areas.
Okay, Randy?
Yeah, I'll just make a comment or two, and hopefully Councillor Mouton will also jump in here. This was brought in by a previous council, and it's taken this amount of time to come to the point where Lucy is actually now doing the billing. I would understand, I wasn't around at the time, but I would understand that there would have been a full consultation and community engagement at the time, but I could be wrong. But that it should have been done if it wasn't, in my opinion, in any case. So here we are now. It's been brought forward. The issue, of course, and some of you have already made this point several times. There's an awful lot of people that are quite upset about this. There was an option to either do it this way or do it through your taxes. And it was going to be considerably more through your taxes, my understanding and what I've been told, than the way it's being done now. That's about all that I have at this point, other than it has been suspended, as Linda has told you, for the time being, because it's my understanding that there has been some miscalculations on property sizes, et cetera, et cetera. The main reason for bringing it in is because the infrastructure to support the stormwater and sewers and all the rest of it has not been properly allotted for, enough reserves are put away to be able to maintain the kind of system that we have in Coburg. And this will be a way to make sure that stormwater, et cetera, and all of that infrastructure will be funded properly. So this is the idea behind it. Miriam, do you have something more to add to what I've just said?
Yes, I do. When you're done there, Randy.
I'm done for now.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I?
Before we go to you, Miriam.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to get off subject a little bit here. I mean, all we're dealing with today is it's a conservation lands, and whether, you know, how we get an exemption.
Mr. Chair,
And that's all we're
could
doing.
I just add something? Because there was, with the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority through the chair, there was no previous consultation with Ganaraska.
Okay.
And that's all I'm looking at, because as Ganaraska, I believe we should be applying for an exemption, and it would have been nice to have had the consultation so we wouldn't have been in this position. As I explained, I see our relationship with our municipalities is very much partnership. And, you know, I did explain also that if we are to pay it, we're going to then invoice, and we've got an invoice prepared for the town of Cobourg in that amount, so they can just tack that onto the levy. But it just doesn't make, it just muddies the waters that if we were exempt.
I was just trying to give a bit of background.
Yeah,
No way around it.
No, I don't want any finger pointing or anything. I want a good, clear. Miriam, do you have anything to add to what Randy said as far as dealing with this property and the exemption that we're asking for?
Yes, I think what's happened recently and sort of this pause is it makes it a critical time. And I would like to point out that I very much support Linda's perspective on this. My understanding, and this needs to be confirmed, is that every municipality in Ontario will ultimately be required through asset management program to deal with stormwater charges and facilities. What's happened in the past, my understanding is that this component was part of property taxes, and now it's being separated out as a different fee. So it's absolutely critical that the Conservation Authority and other entities question this. I also would like to point out that other municipalities in Ontario do charge a stormwater fee or levy, but there's different models to do this. What Cobourg decided to do was to go by property size. Basically, the model that was chosen, I'm not sure how it was chosen, but it's not the only model out there. For example, Brampton, Mississauga, they actually exempt certain types of properties. Most definitely, like within the GRCA's jurisdiction, there are urban areas and rural areas. And up to a point, just my last point is that there's quite a bit of land that actually acts as private stormwater management. And I think conservation authorities properties are part of that. And so I think the discussion needs to happen. I do like Linda's approach, seeking the exemption. Definitely the conversation has to continue at the town of Cobourg.
Okay. So just for the sake of time then, Miriam, would you move that motion then?
Sure. Yes. Okay. If everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's better if it comes from the Cobourg councillors.
Sure.
And Randy's willing to second that motion. And that gets the motion on the floor at least. Is there any further discussion anyone has? I mean, right now we're just asking for the exemption. We're asking it to get the Cobourg council, and we're trying to rectify the issue. So I got Joan and then Tracy, and then I'll go to you. Joan, go ahead.
To you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if this is part of the discussion or not, but is this a one-time fee or will this be a yearly fee?
No, this will be every year.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're asking for a total. We're asking for a total exemption, so we won't get the fee.
And just one more. So the Ganaraska owns the property in the town of Cobourg. Is that right?
That's correct.
Or do you manage it?
No, we own it. It has it really has no value because it's on floodplain creek and so forth. So I mean, there's no value to it really. It's just that we maintain it and look after it.
It's a Cobourg conservation area. So we generally own conservation areas. We do not own one in Elmwood, Calderman, but in most of our municipal watershed municipalities, the larger ones, we do have at least one conservation area within.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tracy, you were next.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm echoing the same sentiments around the table. You know, an exemption is what we need to do, and if it's going through and doing a deputation as well, I really like the fact that Miriam did flesh out that the, asset management plan is a critical step that the province is rolling out, and there are some changes there. So I think it's prudent at this time that we do move forward and request that exemption.
Yes, okay, thank you. And Vicky.
Yeah, just to share another question, is the conversation around other communities implementing something and it rolling it across the province. Is there any value in the conservation authorities approaching the province and having writing a letter as far as the policy goes towards?
Maybe Conservation Ontario would be the next step, and that can be brought up.
I think that
during
would
next
be,
year's
yeah.
proceedings.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I think going through Conservation Ontario would be a good step that perhaps maybe even what this board could direct is a letter going to Conservation Ontario.
Yes.
That we could write in the new year that asking that they look into this type of exemption.
Our next
Yeah,
board.
just because to your point, if you're just going to tax them back and levy them back, it doesn't make any sense, right?
No, so we can, do you want just direct, you don't need a motion to do
No,
that,
no,
we'll just
no,
bring a letter back.
No, I'll bring a letter, yeah, that'll be in the new year.
Okay, so we had a mover, we had a seconder, all in favor then? And that's carried unanimously, and I thank everyone for that. I particularly thank the two Cobourg councillors. I mean, I hate putting anyone on the spot and so forth, but you're both, we respect your support and so forth, and I thank you for that today. So thank you very much. Okay. And thank you, everyone. We'll continue on with our agenda, which we have. Question period, nothing, Linda? No. In camera, none, so just a motion to adjourn. I think Willie will make that, right, Willie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Meeting adjourned, and again, wish everybody a very Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones. And I guess we'll see you in the new year, which is around the corner.
Absolutely. All the best, everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All the best, everyone.
Merry
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Holidays.
See you next year.
Thank you.
Bye
now.
Bye-bye.